Right to your computer.
Cool.
Virgo season, baby.
Things work efficiently.
Yes. Well, Virgo is ruled by Mercury.
We're out of retrograde now.
We're out of retrograde, baby, and sky's the limit.
Hmm.
All right. So, do not disturb. We're busy. All right. Are you ready?
Ready?
Five, four, three, two, one. Hey, Moon Dancers and our 17th Tarot and Soul Arcana family. It is arguably the best season of the entire year. And what season is that?
It's Virgo season.
It's Virgo season. I am biased, and so is Sydney. My birthday is in September, and so is Sydney's. And so that means that we have our sun in the sign of Virgo. And I feel like we couldn't be any more like the archetypal Virgoan
I just
tendencies.
said the same thing to my mom this morning. Like, it's crazy. The more I learn about this sign, the more I just like fit the mold so perfectly.
And it's interesting because I actually know a lot of Virgos. To be a Virgo means that your mom and dad got it on around the
New Year's?
new year.
Yeah.
And really kind of the it's interesting because it's the light part of
Hmm.
the darkness. And that's what's so cool about Virgo is that you can think of Virgo as the yin part of the yang season. It's what ushers us from summer into fall. And it's a mutable sign, meaning it's a double-bodied sign, meaning it has aspects of Leo and of Libra. And it's an earth sign, but I was actually listening to a lecture today that Adam, our teacher, gave, and he was talking about how the actual constellation of Virgo is often showed traditionally with a bird on her shoulder.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that, how that was like the symbology of Aries, and
Mm.
how there's this kind of hidden connection between Virgo and Aries. And what Aries brings is that fire that burns away the impurities,
Hmm.
because Virgo is a sign of purity.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because I've always felt like I'm very grounded and rooted, but I've also felt like I have like fire tendencies. But it's interesting because my actual chart has a lot of air
Yeah.
in it. And so then I was thinking on the drive here, I was like, if you broke down the signs, the zodiac, in accordance to the doshas, I feel like because Virgo is a double-bodied sign, it would equate to a tridoshic sign,
Huh.
meaning you have kind of an equal amount of all elements because Leo is fire, Virgo is earth, and Libra is air.
Okay, so that's so interesting that you say that because I have often heard, and this is kind of like in the tarot world too, that the sign of Virgo is kind of considered like an honorary air sign. So I
Mm,
was surprised when I was reading your blog post and hearing this about Aries because I was like, okay, you know what? That actually does make a whole lot of sense. And Tridoshic makes sense too. Then I often think about going back to tarot, how a lot of times, like the High Priestess is a card that's symbolized by water, but people often say that the the high priestess is represented by Virgo as well
so
because it's
now
that
we're pulling
intellect. So
in
we're pulling in
all of
all
the
four of the
elements.
elements. And it's really interesting because I also think that, it being the sign of like purity, it's like, what is it pure of? Well, it's pure in mind, body, and spirit. And so it's like Virgo is really this tether between like the spiritual and the physical realm. So it would have to kind of encompass all elements in order to be so.
Yeah, and you know what's also interesting about pulling in the elements? We have someone mowing the lawn
Yeah.
right now. And so we're like, here we go with the elemental
Yeah.
aspect. But the Virgo in me is like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's not going to be
Really?
perfect. What the fuck? Of course. But then the other part of me is just like, you know what? Of course. And I think that this is a good segue into your card that you pulled.
Yeah, absolutely. This is interesting. So for the month, for this new moon, we pulled the Ten of Cups. And I was just telling you that I actually pulled this card for someone that I read for who is also a Virgo um, last week. And the message that they were given, this was pulled in their piece of advice, and I feel like this is really relevant here. This is all of our advice here, is kind of to start looking at these things that start looking at our life in a way where we're not looking at all the negatives. We're not looking at the things that go wrong. We're looking at the things that truly fulfill us and the things that we love. It's so easy, I think, as a Virgo to get really nitpicky about all the things that aren't working right. But what if we just change that mindset into, everything's working the way that it needs to right now? And I think that's kind of the message here in the Ten of Cups. It's like you're in control of your level of fulfillment. And it's perfect here with this being a 10 as well. 10 in the tarot, 10 is again. So we're restarting this new cycle. We're restarting with this new moon and all of these different astrological happenings that are going on in the sign of Virgo. That's really bringing us this sense of renewal in how we look at our lives, how we communicate with things and the people that are in our lives, and how we're going to start creating these new habits that allow us to function better in the world.
I love that because this is a time where you are able to kind of cleanse and purify and reset. And I was looking into because we have a lunar eclipse on September 7th, 8th, and it was saying that a ritual that we can do prior to the 7th would be to like mass clean your house, your car, your body, your mind. And I just came back from a weekend trip. My sister-in-law got married, who's also a Virgo. And, it was so much fun. We were in Boise. I was indulging in some really delicious food, but I'm feeling the aftermath of it. And so I was thinking, okay, cool. It's a new moon in Virgo, or the sun's in Virgo. I think I'm going to do like the 7-day summer cleanse.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then that'll bring me 7 days. And then I have a birthday pool party on September 30th, which I wish you could go, but you'll be on your bachelorette party. So, I wish I could transport myself to New Orleans because that's also where my bachelorette party was. But my husband's taking me on a trip the following week. So, it just starts in a line, but we will go on and do something
We'll do
to
it.
celebrate
Yeah.
both our birthdays, your wedding, but anyways, going back to this like idea of cleansing and this renewal and this rebirth that the Ten of Cups is really kind of asking us to do, Virgo is asking us to do, the new moon is asking us to do, is this idea of just like purifying and throwing into the fire. And in our strength class that we did together today, that was the whole premise, is that like Virgo is really this kind of sign of greatness. And how can we become great if we have all of these kind of sandbags weighing us down from allowing our beautiful, big, hot air balloon to live and go up into the sky? And so right now is the time to just kind of cut all those sandbags, the dead weight off, throw into the fire all the impurities, and set yourself free. That's really what Virgo is. It's like structure, and inside of that structure, you find liberation. I think it's really fun too that we're both Virgos, but I think it's such a fun time of year because you get a little bit of the summer,
Yeah.
and then you get a little bit of the fall. And the way that the sun kind of is arcing is that when we start, the zodiac starts in Aries, and that is the spring equinox, which that is kind of like the light moving up to like the highest light in the sky, which is in Cancer when we're at the summer solstice. And then Cancer down to Virgo is actually when the lightest part of the year starts to get darker. It's the dark side of the light part of the year. And so it's always just like a really fun sign because we have all of it. And to tie it back to the doshas, it's this kind of tridoshic time of year, which means that we are actually more susceptible to falling into imbalance and the shadow because we're so affected by everything around us. We have all the elements at play right now. And so, what are some of your go-tos in keeping your kind of Virgoan tendencies in check throughout the whole year, but also right now, which is like a more potent and important time to keep yourself in balance?
Mm. It's a lot of catching myself in the midst of tearing myself down and trying to like retrain my brain and to think it, the inner narrative in me wants to be like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid for that. You're so dumb for that. Why would you do that? And instead it's like taking those thoughts and restructuring them in such a way that I'm not speaking to myself with this like horribly harsh narrative. I'm speaking to myself like I would talk to my friend, you know? So I think paying attention to those times is really important for me because, I have a lot of Virgo energy. I think you have a stellium in Virgo just like I do. So I have multiple planets. I think I have like 5 planets that are all ruled over by Virgo. So there's this loud inner conscience that, you know, likes to take over because that perfectionist side comes through a lot. So I think it's just mindfulness over anything.
Yeah. And Adam was speaking to the kind of perfectionist side of Virgo. And he was saying that, kind of when you think of a Virgo, you think, oh, they're super organized, they're really nitpicky, they like things a particular way. And yes, those are all very true. And we're almost, obsessed with this idea of perfection. And yes, that is absolutely true. But he was saying that it's actually a sign of concernment in terms of we as a human race, as living beings, as cosmic beings, are weighted at the end of our life karmically. And the idea is, did you live a pure life? Did you live a life that you're proud of? Did you live a life that, even though maybe and absolutely we do have faults and mistakes that kind of bring this ama or toxicity onto us, but were we able to purify the impurities? And so it's not necessarily that we're kind of obsessed with this idea of perfection. It's more so that we know and understand that there's karmic scales at play.
Yeah,
and we're more
absolutely.
concerned with making sure that, when we meet our maker, whatever that means to you, are your scales going to be balanced?
Yeah. And I think too, on the note of purity, like Virgo rules over the sixth house, the house of service. So most people born under this sign are, they come into this life with a mission to help others and to be of service to others. And I think when I think about, the perfectionist nature in Virgo, it's so paradoxical because I think when Virgo people and anywhere that you feel Virgo energy in your life, when you realize that that imperfection is the exact thing that you need to recognize and realize that is your source of healing to not only yourself and others. So it's realizing that that imperfection is perfectly imperfect.
I actually have two tattoos, Kirabu and Kasoro, and these are actually Swahili words that means perfectly imperfect. And I had gotten them at a time in my life where I was massively imperfect. And that imperfection drove me into a deep, deep deep well of addiction.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, I actually pretty much my entire existence up to the age of probably 18, 19, I was perfect. I was the star athlete. I was a top honor student. I cleaned the house. Literally, when you think of the sign of Virgo as greatness, I was and always strived to be the greatest at every single thing that I possibly could be. When I moved to college and went to art school, I think the pressure of being perfect as an artist amongst other great artists, I had never really been, I was always like the big fish in a little pond.
Right.
And so being perfect was relatively easy because there wasn't a lot of competition. When I got into art school, I was like, oh fuck, there's a shit ton of people out here that are maybe better at things than I am. And to kind of escape that, I dove deep into drugs. And then you better fucking believe that I was the best drug addict out there. But high functioning, yes. And I was in the road to recovery. And once I realized the hole that I dug myself in, I realized, like, okay, how do I get out of here? And I've noticed that my vulnerability throughout the years I went to rehab when I was 21, from 21 to I'm almost 35 in a couple of weeks. That road of allowing people to see my imperfections has been the gateway to my success. And I always think about the quote that Rumi wrote, the wound is the way the light shines in. And for so long, I was mortified to tell anyone. I was embarrassed. There was just no way that I could even stomach letting people see the imperfect side of me, although it was like screaming out. Like when you look back at pictures, you're like, that girl is not well. And I tried my very best to cover it up. And so it's just interesting that it the imperfection is the way that we become relatable to people. And I want to touch back on what you were saying about speaking harmfully to ourselves. In my teacher training group, we were talking about the 8 limbs of yoga, and we were talking about the very first yama, ahimsa, nonviolence. And traditionally, the yama is kind of how you behave externally. And I think often we forget that we cannot behave externally in any way if our internal landscape is cluttered or dirty. And so ahimsa, you can really turn that on yourself. And so having harmful thoughts of yourself, telling yourself, you could have done better, you should have done better, you're a piece of shit, you're not good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not whatever, fill in the blank. That is so incredibly harmful to you as a person. And then when you're not feeling your best, then there's literally no way that you can exude your best towards anyone else. And so it's interesting and that's very Virgoan of us as actual sun Virgos, but of everyone else, because remember that we have every zodiac sign swirling around inside of us, and so we all have these tendencies, and they're usually heightened at this time. So although you might not have Virgo much in your chart, or maybe you have a ton of it, you're still heavily affected by this season.
Absolutely. I think it's so funny that the beginning of the school year is right at
I was
Virgo season.
just
It's
gonna
so
say that.
perfect and fitting.
I was just gonna say
Like,
that.
everyone's got to get their shit together again.
Everyone's got to get their shit together. And I was thinking about it in terms of like, I have to have the perfect outfit for the first week of school. I have to have the perfect hair. I have to have the perfect notebook, perfect backpack. Like that's so Virgo, which is just fascinating. And I was laughing with Sydney before we hit record that I was like, oh, this is the most perfect Virgo thing to start my blog post off with. And it says, cue the confetti made of neatly hole punched paper. That is like the essence of the Virgo.
Mhm.
And, Virgo, like we mentioned, is ruled by the planet Mercury. And you can think of this as really like Mercury as Virgo's ruler really thrives in this sign. Words sharpen into precision, thoughts become order, and ideas transform into practical systems. Mercury in Virgo is like a fine-toothed comb for the chaos of life. And then there's also these kind of hints of Mars that are sprinkled into the sign of Virgo. And you can think of Mars as really the planet that steps in as the muscle behind the Mercury plan. It's together, Mercury and Mars draft the blueprint, and Mars really picks up the saw. So this is kind of like thought and action, strategy and execution, and vision and momentum. And I think it's very interesting because my sadhana practice right now is the Nabi Kriya, and Nabi means core, and the core is ruled by the planet Mars. And so I didn't plan on having this Kriya being kind of coming to like a culmination in the middle of Virgo season, but technically my 40 days will be like next week on like the 30th. And I love how life just kind of works like that.
Yeah, that we did that today in
Hmm.
class, right? I liked that. That was hard, but it was really good. I got into it. It was a good
And
one.
I will link a variation of the Nabi Kriya in the show notes so you can give it a try. It's a Kriya that helps to activate the core. And when activating your core, you are in turn strengthening your vitality, your longevity. You're helping to strengthen your digestion, your Agni, your fire that burns away the impurities. And Virgo is all about burning away all of the impurities. It's this sign of the Virgin. And I don't know if you have anything to speak on the virgin archetype, what that kind of feels like and means to you.
Well, I think I was kind of saying that earlier. Like, I don't think it's just purity for purity's sense. I think it's purity in its best form in order to get the job done the way it's supposed to be done.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's purification of body, mind, and spirit so that we can function to the best of our ability. So I think that's like kind of misinterpreted sometimes because, it's not just living like a pure pious life and all of these kinds of ways. There's a lot of layers to it. It can be applied to so many different circumstances in one's life.
I, when you say that, it makes me think of the niyama, brahmacharya, the fifth niyama, and brahmacharya in kind of more like a patriarchal lens has been translated to celibacy, of course,
Yeah.
because we don't want any hoes out here. And really, when you look at brahmacharya from like a more feminine lens, it's actually the wise use of sexual creative
Mm-hmm.
energy. And that is what I feel like the virgin kind of archetype is are you utilizing your life force energy to strengthen you or to weaken you?
Beautifully said.
And that is something that you can ask yourself every single day. My Ayurveda teacher posed this question in the very beginning of my Ayurvedic training. And she said, that is something you need to ask yourself every moment of every day. Is this strengthening me or is this weakening me? Is this giving me energy or is this depleting my energy? And the things that are weakening you and depleting you, that's what we throw into the fire. That's what we burn away. And I love how you said in our last podcast, when we let go of the things that are holding us back, it makes space for us to rise up and awaken into the potential that lives inside of
Mhm.
us.
And it activates those around us as well.
And it activates those around us.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like pulling it back to like the double-bodied sign and that, there's tendencies of Leo and tendencies of Libra in within the Virgo sign. And I feel that like so deeply. Like I do feel like a lot of Virgos are like, I'm the star of the show. I want to be the star of the show. And that's very Leo.
Hmm.
But then there's also like this kind of Libra aspect where it's like, well, we got to pull it back because you have to be perfect to be
Yeah.
the star of the show. So it's kind of this like balancing of the
Yeah.
scales. And so it was really interesting when our teacher Adam was talking about that. I felt very like resonant with that. And then I also have a Libra rising. So I've always kind of resonated with the sign Libra. And so it's interesting that the Virgo sun sign has like these sprinkles of
Yeah.
Libra in it.
That's funny. I was talking to Andrew about that this morning too, because he is a Libra moon, I want to say, and he's the 22nd of September. So he's like right on the cusp. So he is very Virgo in so many ways. Our charts are like very aligned and we have all these similar placements because we're born 5 days apart in the same place. Um, but he has such I have the Leo qualities because I have Leo moon and my Mars, and then he has these very Libra qualities, but they all kind of just intermesh very well together. And they all somehow kind of look like Virgo in a way as well. I also think about how we pulled the strength card, and the woman that's depicted in the strength card is often symbolized by Virgo as well. And so there's this already very deep and intimate connection, even within the tarot, between Virgo and Leo.
My phone got too hot. It's okay. We're in the sun. That's all right, 'cause we are filming this live anyways, so
Perfect.
we'll just let it cool down. Um, I think that it would be really fascinating to talk about the light and shadow side of Virgo, especially since we
Yeah.
have like a first kind of hand on what that feels like and looks like. I've got light traits, kind of strength traits, if you will, as healing intelligence transforms details into devotion. Clear-sighted, refinement, sees the diamond in the rough, and competence that calms chaos, service as sacred act.
Yes.
And then I've got the shadow traits, or I guess you could say, um, like weakening traits would be perfectionism, which we've touched on a lot. Believing worth is conditional, endless nitpicking and self-criticism, and analysis paralysis,
Yeah.
over serving while neglecting self. And I think that that's something that we should really elaborate on because that is
The story
so
of our
fucking
lives.
resonant.
I feel like that's what we're doing all the time.
I will give, 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 give,
Yeah.
give, 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 and then totally always forget to give back to myself. And I think that that's been a form of tension in my marriage is I give so much that I end up getting so depleted to a point where then I just kind of explode.
Yeah.
And in that explosion, then all of the kind of pushed down resentment and anger of really jealousy and envy of what everyone's receiving from me. And then I'm not getting that back from others
Yeah.
when really I should be like, why don't you just turn it on yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. And it's like you're just setting yourself up for like a an expectation that's never going to be met because at the end of the day, who else is going to no one else can do it as good as you. So even if they come towards you with this reciprocity, is it going to be good enough? I don't know. So it's
Nope.
just dropping that entire mindset completely. That's what's necessary.
That's so hard
Oh
because
yeah.
my husband doesn't fold the laundry the way that I want. He doesn't clean the house the way that I want.
Why are we the same person?
Oh, it's just like, and I love him so much. He has so many incredible qualities about him. But I remember he was like joking. He's like, oh, one day, like when we make it big, like we'll get a cleaning lady. And I'm like, over my dead fucking body. Absolutely not. Like they just won't do it good enough. And
That's
I'm not
my
going to
job.
pay someone to do it because I'm just going to go in and redo it.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, and it's also, I think, resonant for us too, because we don't have childcare for our kids. And I feel like it's like, well, why would I have someone else do it when I can do it?
Yeah.
I don't want someone else like raising my kid or whatever. And we are lucky because we have partners that are able to help provide in a way where we don't have to have like a 9 to 5 full-time job.
Right.
We also are kind of these little like witchy chicks that have been able to curate careers that bring enough abundance where we're able to stay home with our kids. And I feel very grateful for that. And I know that that's not every single person's reality.
No.
And so I also like when, I'm like, oh, how come you're not hand making all of your food, like tomato paste from scratch? And it's like, oh, yeah, because you're working like 10 hours away from the home. Whereas we really have the luxury
Yeah.
of being home.
That really like reminds me of this Ten of Cups card coming back to that. This is like very much about, like the happy home, the happy life that you already have in front of you. So I think just that right there, the recognition of it was good.
I love that. Okay.
Do we want to talk a little bit about the new moon and the little square that we've got going on?
Yes. So, and I also make sure that we touch on the fact that your birthday is like right by the solar eclipse.
It
Did you
is, yeah.
realize
Yeah.
that? That's fucking cool. So,
Yeah.
yes, we'll talk on the new moon. We'll get into the eclipses. I'll let you speak on the new moon, and then I actually have some little kind of ritual that you can do to kind of clean the slate for the new moon, but I'll let you dive into it first and then.
Sure. Yeah. So this new moon it's potent. It's at, 0 degrees of the sign of Virgo. So it's taking place just like a few hours past the beginning of our Virgo season. And so, new moons, like we've discussed in the past, they really invite us to set our intentions for the future and what it is that we want to call into our lives. So that being said, Virgo's really a sign of initiation. So this isn't just about wishing, it's about actually doing something about it, starting that initiation. So the next month is kind of this chance to reconnect with the energy of Virgo. And Virgo really focuses on making the spiritual practical. So it's, turning our everyday duties into a meaningful practice and honoring our bodies as these sacred vessels. So the new moon reminds us, it's okay to start something new and not have a perfect plan for it. You're allowed to begin a journey without, expecting to get it right from the first day.
I love so deeply that you said that because that is literally the essence of the practice of Tantra.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is so interesting is that Tantra in and of itself has been so skewed here in the Western world. When you think of Tantra, usually people immediately think of like weird sex things.
Yeah.
They think of the Kama Sutra and they think of like weird sexual rituals. And that, yes, is a sect of Tantra, but it's not actually the heart of Tantra. It's almost like this branch that you don't have to travel down if you are a Tantrika.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself of what Tantra is, Tan means to weave or expand, and Tra is the instrument. So Tantra literally means the instrument to expand
Mm.
or the instrument to weave divine into every aspect of life. And that's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Virgo is finding the divine in even the smallest things, finding the divine in right now. I
Yeah.
mean, we're fucking baking
I
in the sun. I'm sweating. We've got the sun on our back. And, instead of being like upset about it, I actually feel like, okay, this is like so beautiful
Right.
that we've got this like gorgeous breeze. We have these cutie pies playing baseball over there, and the sun is shining down on us. And, taking it back to the Ten of Cups, it's like, I'm fucking grateful.
Yeah. I really like what you just said about like looking at the small things because that's a super, I think I put it at the top of my notes. Like one of the things that I think makes up the archetype of Virgo is like small detail. It's the little shit that really matters. And that speaks to my soul. Like it's always the little things for me. And I think that this new moon isn't just about like making these huge life changes. It's really about looking at the small, like everyday habits that make up your entire life. Like, are there routines that you can improve? Are there things that you've been putting off? You know, Virgo energy, it can help us to like focus, analyze, and just ultimately bring order to chaos.
This attention to small details makes me think of like my wedding, and I know you're planning your wedding right now, but I have had people to this day still, I got married almost 7 years ago. To this day, people will comment on how meticulously planned out my wedding was from the smallest detail. And I actually thank God to my mom and her best friend and her best friend's mom who made these, I'm talking hundreds of tiny little dream catchers. And my best friend, my mom's best friend's mother sewed them onto the circles. And then my mom and her best friend wrapped the circles in twine. And then they gave them to me. And then me and a bunch of my friends like decorated the dream catchers. And they're just really tiny, but they were decor, but also it was what people could take home as
Yeah.
a gift. And the thing that I love so much is like, usually they're kind of like bullshit gifts that you get and it's like a koozie or like, seeds to plant or something, which is like cute in the moment, but it's not something that's like going to last a lifetime, if you will.
Right.
And the amount of times that have gone into wedding guests of mine houses and they have the dream catcher hanging up somewhere or it's hanging in their car
That's so
or
special.
I'm on a FaceTime with them and I see it somewhere in the background and I'm like, okay, fuck yeah, that is the little
That's the
detail.
little thing.
And so I'm curious, like, how's wedding planning going for you and the little details?
Oh God, I don't know, because I'm so avoidant. Like, wedding planning was never really my thing, which is why I chose to have a Halloween party as my wedding. So I don't know. I've really just decided that it's best for me to like shift a lot of the little things to other people, and I'm just like allowing the experience to be special in and of itself. And it's really cool to have all these different people, for my bachelorette trip, for what all the other things that we have planned that are, putting their own like little spin on things and really just showing, I think, their love for both Andrew and I by the time that they're putting in. So for me, it's the little efforts from other people that are
Mm-hmm.
really making this whole entire thing special. And the way that people are so excited to tell me about their costumes and things, things like that. It's that little effort, you know what I mean?
Well,
Because
I
I'm
think
inviting people to this wedding to, show up as this new expression of themselves, and that's an offering to me,
I
you
love
know?
that. And I love that as a Virgo, you're delegating out
Yeah,
tasks.
I
That
have to.
is a shadow side of not delegating out tasks, of not, of like giving so much and not receiving. And right now you're letting yourself receive. Like, let me tell you, my mom and I have an entire like Pinterest board of different cookies that we're going to decorate for your wedding and you're just kind of giving us like free reign, a
Yeah.
little structure, but like free reign. And it's like that is really special. And just like what you said, it's like all of us are able to put this kind of love stamp
Mhm.
expression for the two of you, really the three of you, because Violet
Yeah.
is, such a pivotal part, and you're planning your entire wedding really around her
Her.
so she can have fun. And I think that that's amazing. And just like a side note that's kind of fun is Violet decided that she wanted to be a bat,
Yes, she wants to be a
right?
bat.
And then so Sydney is thinking about having like this. She has a very traditional wedding dress, but kind of her party dress will be kind of this like sexy
Yeah. Thinking like a
Mama
black
bat.
mini dress, and I'm like,
I
should I
love
be
it.
a bat with her? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
what we end up doing, but I think it would be cute.
It would be super cute. And my girls are the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They are obsessed with Barbie right now. So we're all going to be variations of Barbie. And then Blake will be some sort of Ken,
Yeah.
which I think will be fun.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
can really have fun with that. But to pull it back to the new moon, I have a really cool way for you to kind of hit the cosmic reset button. You can think of new moons as like a blank page, a blank slate. And Virgo is a brand new dotted notebook with colored tabs for organization. And so this is a ritual that you can use for alignment. You can clear space, so like literally wipe down your surfaces, light a simple candle, and whisper, I welcome order that supports my joy.
Mm.
And then you'll name three merciful intentions, small, measurable, and kind. You'll design micro actions, one daily and one weekly, to move you towards each of those three intentions. And then you'll seal it with a flame. So pass your list over candlelight safely and visualize Virgo's hidden Aries fire burning off the impurities or the obstacles in your way from achieving those intentions. And you can affirm to yourself, I am already enough. My devotion is my power. My care is Catholic. And this is a beautiful way for you to just kind of get ready. And I encourage you to do this tonight into the weekend. And like Sydney mentioned before, it's never too late to ever start anything. So you don't even, if you're listening to this back, you don't even need to be in Virgo season to activate and call upon the Virgo energy inside of you. And so this new moon is today, August 22nd, 23rd-ish. And then Virgo really, this cycle comes with two really powerful eclipses. A one kind of two punch of transformation. September 7th through 8th, we have a total lunar eclipse. This is like an emotional culmination and it's a release and it signifies endings. And then we've got September 20th through 21st, a partial solar eclipse. And then this is also mirrored the Virgo new moon number 2 of the season. And this is all about breakthroughs, redirections, and initiation. And so I think it's interesting that your birthday falls like right around there,
Yeah, it's right before that second, the solar eclipse. Yeah, mine's the 17th, so.
which is interesting.
Hmm.
So then now the question you have to ask yourself as we kind of move through this month is like, what am I ready to let go of and release? What am I ready to bring to a close?
Okay.
And then what am I ready to break through, rebirth, and initiate?
Oh, I can definitely think of a lot of things.
I can too. I actually have more things that I could let go of than I could call in, and that's very Virgo of us
Yeah.
to think of the negative rather than the
Oh, yeah,
positive.
definitely.
And some kind of just fun little facts about Virgo. In the body, Virgo rules the gut. And I think that's interesting because we were talking about the Nabi, the core, which is really the gut. And that's where our Agni, our fire, our digestion reside. And that's where we purify, is right in the gut. And it's considered to be the second brain. It's the seat of instinct. It's caring for your body like a beloved coworker, allowing yourself to feed its rhythms, let it rest, and give it the tools to work. The wisdom of the body is Virgo's favorite oracle. This is spiritual guidance, not medical advice, but a mini ritual that you can do to help purify and power yourself is one breath of fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best breaths that I encourage you to play with. And I'm interested, Sydney, to hear your take on it. But I remember when I first started practicing Breath of Fire, I absolutely fucking hated it. It was challenging, it was hard, and I think now that we've had this conversation, it's because I wasn't very good at it and I wasn't perfect at it and I
Yeah.
wasn't naturally good at it,
Okay.
of which most people aren't because it's a very opposite non-instinctual way of breathing. It's a rapid exhale and the inhale just happens. And so it was very challenging. And usually when things don't come naturally to me, I'm averted to that.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck this. Like, I want to do things I'm good at because I want to be great. But then it's like that discipline that also is part of the sign of Virgo. If you think of the gut, that's where your tapas, your discipline, your willpower, your sheer desire, and you can think of discipline as being a disciple of self. And so when you can be disciplined and have this dedicated practice to Breath of Fire, one, you do get better over time. And two, you start to love it in terms of instead of hating it, at least the hope is
Yeah.
that you start to love it. And so having it be the gut of Virgo living in the gut of the body makes total sense. And then we're pulling in Mars, this kind of commander of the army of the gods, and this, you're really like commanding your entire body to throw into the fire all of the bullshit.
Mhm.
And so this kind of mini ritual, you can write a self-doubt on a scrap piece of paper, which mine would be like a scroll because I have so many of them. And then you write that self-doubt on a scrap piece of paper, you sprinkle salt over it, fold it up, and place it underneath a stone. And then speak to that paper under the stone and say, only what serves may stay. And then revisit this after September 21st eclipse and release if the weight has been lifted.
Hmm.
Have you ever done that
I've
before?
never done that before. I like that one though.
I had a teacher that had us do that in my first 200-hour training, and it was really powerful. Um, and it's a really, kind of going back to what that podcast we listened to before the last podcast episode we recorded, the lady was talking about how writing things down becomes like a divine contract.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you have to like journal your entire heart and your all of your experiences and your emotions, but writing things down makes them tangible and real. And writing things down is a way for you to just like really release a lot of the things that are swimming around inside of you, but you're not. The problem with things being inside of you is that you can't see them unless you go internal and meditate and do, Kundalini practices or strength practices that help you kind of confront those things. But most of us have a really challenging time doing those practices. And something that really I think could help people out is writing it down, getting it out of your body and onto paper. And we're in bonfire season right now. And so writing it down and like literally throwing it into the fire can be so cathartic and
That is
healing.
one of my favorites for sure.
So, Sydney, what are some of your takeaways of this Virgo season? What are some of your ways that we can tie in the Ten of Cups as we move through this arguably the best lunation and solar cycle of the year?
I feel like there can be some like scattered or overwhelmed energy, especially with this square to Uranus and Gemini that's happening. So there could be like this constant flood of information and mental chatter that can kind of disrupt our peace. But I think that this new moon ultimately is asking us to find these new ways to care for ourselves and actually just to focus on what matters. It's like this is the Ten of Cups is just kind of like reasserting that fact that like we need to look at what matters. We need to remember these things that are really important in our lives and stop being so critical of the shit that is just taking up space and just taking up energy that could be used to put it towards all of the things that we love in our life. Because if we do that, then we can, amplify all of those things.
Amen to that. Amen. This Virgo season 2025 is no ordinary tidy up. It's a purification journey. We've got 2 new moons, 2 eclipses. We've got Mercury's precision, Mars drive, and Virgo's secret Aries fire to combine into one long initiation. The voice that says you're not ready yet is dissolving in the Virgoan flame. How many of us have said, "Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'll do it when I get to this." Or I have a friend, she's a an ultra marathon runner, so meaning she runs like 50 plus mile races, and she actually runs for the United States team, and she has a tattoo that says later means never. And I love that. And she has it tattooed on her arm, because how many times are we like, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it when I'm ready. And that really is you cementing this manifestation into the world that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so this Virgo season is really asking you to throw that voice that says you're not ready yet into the fucking fire. Let it burn away. You are already enough, not after you achieve more, not when you're flawless, but here right now, exactly as you are. This is the season to set your systems, clear your space, and calm your power. Virgo ushers the light into the dark, and you are the lantern bearer. Happy Virgo season, my friends. We'll see you next time. Nice job, Sid.
Love it. That one was so easy, effortless.
And of course, it would overheat for us. Why
We're
would
like,
it?
let's let everything go wrong.
Why wouldn't it? We've got the guy mowing the lawn. We have these people over here cheering and yelling. And you know what? It was perfectly imperfect.
Yes, exactly.